A very warm welcome to another episode of the Cordial Podcast by me, your host, of course, Kang'ong'oi, and you, if you can feel it through my voice, I am quite chill today, doing it in my bed, Sunday, just looking at the weather because where the sun is out, it's on a Sunday, during those hours where you steadily remind yourself or ask yourself why you're single. These are the days or hours you use to just fantasize on the person you're talking to, but look at us recording episodes. But anyway, welcome again to another episode of the Cordial Podcast. As I've said, we were on another new topic and we were to head to part 2. I apologize for not recording this earlier. I'm just realizing that my life is getting a little bit serious and quite overwhelming. And to be honest, that break that I took for months really wasn't a good thing because it's now affecting my progress on how to carry forward with the podcast. But we learn day by day. So yeah, I've gotten the time to record an episode, and I've also been thinking of how exactly I should handle this particular series that we are talking about, because when I recorded the first episode and I posted it out, a couple of my friends were like, yo, I hope you have your talking stage stories in the episode, because the ones that you've given us on your WhatsApp statuses were fun and all these things, So I asked myself, should I do the same of giving stories of my past and how I've actually had to endure healing and all these things? And I felt like doing a crash out, a complete crash out episode, but in my head I was doubting, because I was like, isn't that giving those people power over my life and what I'm trying to make of this particular venture of podcasting? But also it's not bad to actually crash out, because I'm not going to actually mention a lot, but I have a few questions, or there are questions I usually ask myself each and every single day that I wake up, and that thought of love comes into my head, when I'm thinking about all these things. And I ask myself, what exactly do people want outside here? How exactly do people move about, arousing people's feelings and doing all these things, and then all of a sudden shifting and just changing and choosing to just act weird and do other things and hurt people? And I realized the world is moving in such a fast pace, and everybody's just doing what other people are doing. Nobody cares of how actually other people are feeling or doing. People are just doing it. And for me, I personally have recognized that a lot of the content that we consume and a lot of the advice that we take in are more self-inflicting to this kind of pain that we get all over the place. Because tell me why you will take in the advice of somebody telling you there's this particular statement that it is fine if somebody doesn't want to receive the love that you're giving them. I see that statement with people and they accept it, and I'm like, no, that does not make any kind of sense. Because for somebody to actually give you love, that means you are receptive of it. You took it in. So for you to actually refuse it, it is either you saw it from a mile away and you're like, no, I can't continue this. Then that can be conducive, kidogo. But from the aspect of relationships, a relationship is not started if people don't have conversations. And in those conversations, people give off some kind of energy. Right now, we are so used to people faking this kind of energy, or just using it and recognizing that they can't keep up, because they're like, no, either it is too much, or you don't want to get anything serious and you just want to move about, having this kind of experience with people and not wanting to actually commit, which is another problem that we've mentioned in other episodes of talking about discipline and all these things that we lack in. But I ask myself, why do we take such statements and put them in our lives that it is fine for people to walk away when you're giving them your love? Unless it is somebody who has issues with their self-esteem and they usually go for love directly, like they start doing too much, then that can make sense. But in the general terms of like people who are in a relationship and then they break up and then somebody comes and says that it is fine for people to just refuse. Hey, let me tell you, there are things I don't like subscribing to. So yeah, questions I ask myself with everything that I see on the internet, all these things, because personally, yes, I've had my own share of heartbreaks, which are not as many, but they've been hurtful to my extent, because after every kind of ordeal that I get, I usually take time off and not really wanting to catch feelings, quote unquote, for anyone else, because I want to like move on properly, heal properly, and not really carry hurt into other things, which now I'm questioning that intent, because there are other people who just move about, they are heartbroken, but in the next month or two they're with somebody else. For me, I take like a whole year or just a whole months before I even start talking to somebody about feelings and all these things, or I even find somebody attractive to that and that I want to pursue them. I hold myself back, and I am currently at a space where I'm turning 26 in like 2 days or even 24 hours, and I'm asking myself, man, like with the age that I'm turning, should I take things as serious as I take them, or now should I move now and conform to how the world moves around this particular thing of love? Because I've been told by other people, like, you shouldn't have that mentality of finding the one person that early. Like you're in this early age, you're still young, get to know people, go around, because at the end of the day, when you quote unquote close yourself to getting that one person, you'll always get hurt, and it will be deep, because you will always think that when you start having those kind of conversations with somebody, you always picture of them now being your person and not looking for any other person. And then there is this other lifestyle where you can just have conversations with people. If you flirt with them, then good. If it ends, sure, like it didn't work out. And to some extent, I am kind of falling for that side. It feels like I'm killing some innocence part of me, but I'm falling for that side because I'm becoming more open to just having conversations with people, getting friends of the opposite gender, and not seeing them as talking stages and all these things, because I really want to see how I can create a healthy environment around myself where I can see, I can talk to women especially without ever crossing my thoughts to them being the one, or all these things, because there are times you feel instead to somebody can actually kill you if you play around with them. Because I was also mentioning to this person that my fantasy has always been getting somebody from a young age and growing together, getting to know each other, getting to see ourselves grow, whether it was academically, spiritually, physically, and all these things. That has always been my fantasy of wanting to grow with somebody, seeing the other person's growth and them seeing mine, and us being in that energy and in that environment where we appreciate the journey that we've taken together. That has always been my fantasy. But it looks like at this age, I won't. It's like I won't get that, and I'm getting to like just accept all these things because, hey, life is tough, man. Life is tough. I won't argue with that. So yeah, that's part of the things that I ask myself daily. So it's 11 minutes in, and I know I can talk about this for a very long time, but we are going to just jump into the part 2 of this series as it was supposed to be. So part 2, as I mentioned, was more about reclaiming your power and basically just building resilience and your self-love. Now, self-love can be also misunderstood to being selfish. You can get to a point where you are very selfish with yourself, and you can probably get misguided and think that's self-love, but it's you being very selfish, which is not as good. So there's limits to quote-unquote self-love. So our focus of today will be shifting from grief to growth, from the grief that you got. Last time when I was discussing this episode, I said for me, I usually take my time to like feel every kind of feeling that comes about with the heartbreaks. And I actually saw a tweet of somebody confirming that there are other people who actually do that, where you give yourself a timeline of feeling everything, especially in those first few days, weeks. Like for me, the first 2 weeks, I'm always like, yeah, if I'm crying, I feel like crying. Well, walking home, I will cry. If there's a particular song that really derives my emotions, I will listen to them completely, even like 50 times, consecutively. So yeah, so we are going to talk about the shifting from that kind of grief now to growth. And one of the topics that we are dealing with is challenging the negative self-talk and cultivating, self-compassion. And as I said, when you're allowing yourself to feel all this kind of feeling, negative thoughts will always come to you. Always. They're always the first thing to come to you and attack you in a way where you see yourself as not worthy of love, or not worthy of commitment from somebody, or not worthy of anything that feels good to you. And that's one of the negative self-talk that affects us the most, especially are you worthy enough to get these things? And from my perspective, I will say those negative thoughts should actually be tuned in you having some kind of self-reflection and asking yourself why you would actually think that you're not worthy of these things. Why exactly are these thoughts coming to you? Then have that self-reflection and think about what you need to improve apart from what you already have or what you thought you had. And you thinking of the situations that brought you to that particular point in life, and just basically getting to know what you can do better, assessing the kind of relationship that you had, the kind of decisions that you're making while in your feelings, and all these things, and how you handle yourself as a partner, and all these things. Personally, I love that part of healing, because I usually assess everything, and I love myself. I love myself because sometimes I sit down and I write down, and I'm like, yeah, I actually improved on this particular thing. If I can give you an example, there's a talking stage I had, and it ended mainly because I had an issue with negativity. Like, I was it's negativity from the other partner's side, but to me it's more of just being strict and being skeptical about things, which it is not good when you're trying to build a relationship with somebody, whether it is platonic or romantically. And so it really ate me up that I actually made somebody that I thought I loved feel really disappointed and not really supported by somebody who claimed to also like them. So I took my time and I continued, like trying to understand where that particular strictness, or as I call it, comes from, and I had to really dig deep, and I started improving myself. Then in the next talking stage that also didn't work out, I recognized, when the heartbreak happened, I recognized that I had actually improved in not being skeptical. Anytime somebody was trying to, talk about something that they love, I actually became more of a listener and just being there and being a supportive system for somebody. Now, for me, when I see such kind of growth, I'm always like, yes, this is the new me that I would love to carry forward and just get to know how else I can grow, with everything else that's coming about with life. So there's that part of cultivating self-compassion where you give yourself grace for everything that you do. You've made mistakes, and somebody probably chose that as the reason for them not wanting to continue, which is, to some extent, it's fine, but you just need to look forward. So there's also the setting of healthy boundaries and learning to say no, establishing personal space, and prioritizing self-worth. Now, on the aspect of learning to say no, that is also something that I am currently in the process of understanding, because I'm currently realizing that when I'm having this kind of talking stages with people and I recognize the red flags that I cannot deal with, or things that I actually cannot not deal with, instead of giving grace to people, because these are the same things that will come and affect you later on when the heartbreak happens and you recognize, I saw this earlier on, you can say no. And it's not bad to say no. For me, I've always felt like saying no to especially a woman is kind of hurting to them. So I try as much as possible not to say no to many things. But then I realized then I am not me when I just destroy the principles that I have by not saying no and just being a yes man to some other things, or just giving people grace, thinking it's grace you're giving them, but it's more of you affirming their flaws. So there's that part of just setting healthy boundaries and them knowing that you actually don't joke about some other things. So there is also rediscovering yourself, reconnecting with hobbies, pursuing personal passions, and exploring new interests. Now, this is a bit a new side for me, because I can't say I get new hobbies or new interest. I usually go back to my creative self, where I know I would love to write about things. So during this time, I usually take my time to just jump in straight into it. If it's podcasting, I do more episodes, and I add upon other personal episodes that I just do for recording and put them in my drive, and just things that I love doing that I know I will come and look back at them later on in life, or listen to them later on in life. So there is that of pursuing personal passions. That can be a really healthy way of rediscovering yourself and actually making that a norm, and continuing that even when you get yourself into another relationship or talking stage. Now, there is also the building of a support system, cultivating meaningful friendships, and seeking guidance from mentors and or therapists. Now, I've never tried going to therapy, but I would love to, because that's something I see as a fun thing to do. But I took another route when it came to therapy, because I can't really afford therapy at this stage in my life, but I will in some time. But I don't want that's not something that is holding me off from doing the actual work that is needed. So I do that, but therapy is something that I would love to do. Now, on the part of cultivating meaningful friendships, I have, in the past 2, now it's going to 3 years, I've been trying as much as possible to build relationship with people and creating this kind of friendships. And I'm glad to say that I am quite good at it right now, because I have friends who I created through many forums that have been outside, and doing all these things. And I love how I am intentional with it, and I found people who are also intentional with it. There are things I struggle with still, but it's something that I would love to see myself grow out of and just become a better friend, and creating love that is general to everyone else. So that's it for part 2 of reclaiming your power and building resilience and self-love when it comes to heartbreaks and all these things. So as I was saying, when it comes to these kind of things, I think the major priority has always been to grow out of it. Every mistake that you recognize of that you've done or you've said and all these things, just grow out of them. Remove the guilt. Don't let the guilt remain in you every single time that you're trying to grow out of things. Don't let the guilt be in you for that long. It will come time to time, but always fight it, because with that then comes the actual natural growth to this kind of thing. Feel proud of yourself when you recognize the growth that you've had. There are things you right now can remember you were doing earlier on in your life, and right now you're not doing them, and you will feel proud of it. So yeah, start now. Do all these things and you'll be happy in life. These are the little joys of life that come about when you're growing up. So yeah, that has been part 2 of our new series. I hopefully am going to record all these episodes in time. Happy birthday to me, my friend. I'm turning 26. Hopefully I will record another episode before the 22nd of April is here, because I want to do a couple of episodes as many as possible before I turn 26, man. I don't know, I just feel like I'm in some kind of rush that is coming with my age. But yeah, it's really, really beautiful to see me completing 26 years in this life. So it has been a pleasure, guys. See you on the next episode when we conclude this topic of healing and heartbreaks. It has been a pleasure, guys. See you when you see me. It has been your host, Kang'ong'oi.